when they actually go into elite university that they wanted, they lose meaning. This sort of pathological obsession towards perfection is exactly the sort of example of the spiritual disintegration that I've mentioned earlier.
As a 20s in Korea, everything's like competitive. Being in school, getting married, or getting a job, everything you have to compete for it.
And as a Korean who loves my country, at first I was like, oh my gosh, this video is kind of like too much exaggerating.
I think sometimes people tend to look into themselves too much because there's no limitation. You cannot never know yourself for like 100%. So you keep digging into yourself and questioning everything, and then at some point you are at the crisis because you will not get the answer, and that's all.
Today we're talking about whether or not Korea is over. YouTube seems to suggest that it is, but we've got four young adults here to say whether that's true or not.
My name is Chan. That's my Korean name. My English name is Ray.
Hi, my name is Susan.
Hi, I'm Soyun. So I go by Celine.
Hi everyone, my name is Marina. I'm an international student.
Thank you all for coming. I know it's not easy to speak a second language in front of a camera, so all kudos to you guys. It's been out for a month now. What was your immediate reaction?
Like, in many ways, it was a shocking video, obviously. And it was also alarming in many ways as well. And after watching the video, I would say I was accompanied by three feelings. And the first one is like feeling powerless, because I knew as an individual that there isn't much thing I can do, that I can practically do, that could magically somehow fix this issue and put everything back in place. And I also felt hopeless, right? Because I mean, it's a video that outlines the tragic future of Korea in which I'm living. And lastly, I was accompanied by kind of shame, because there was a part of me after watching the video that realized that maybe I could have been unconsciously avoiding this issue, avoiding from taking this issue seriously. And so it was an enlightening one as much as it was alarming. So it was a great opportunity to explore that.
It's a powerful combination of emotions to receive just from watching a YouTube video.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after I watched it, it was a little bit unsettling for me to see, and I guess we hear a lot about the issue, about declining population and stuff, but when it is presented in a visual way and you can see how the impact of it, it's really overwhelming. I agree. And the name and the ideas were very brutal and quite pessimistic in my opinion, but yeah, I didn't really felt happy after watching YouTube video, which is quite rarely, to be honest. But it was nice way to learn. Yeah.
It was like pretty shocking for me, and I've lost my words after watching this video. And as a Korean who loves my country, at first I was like, oh my gosh, this video is kind of like too much exaggerating, because and I felt like I was being insulted, because like I'm kind of like a patriotic person. I might not seem like one, but I am. But like watching the whole video and thinking more and more about it, I kind of like figured out that this video was just so innocent. It was just like telling the present truth of South Korea and just predicting the future based by that. So I realized that I was the blind one, I guess. So, because like I'm pretty sure that there are lots of people who is like blind like me in this kind of situations. Because for me, whenever I go outside and feel this place, Korea, I go to like pretty hot places and make good memories, and I see like tourists and foreigners actually falling in love with Korea, and that makes me more blind. Yeah, and that makes me more blind. So the fact that this Korea is going to end was pretty shocking. Yeah, and the Korea I used to think about and the Korea the video was describing was very different. So it was kind of painful in some ways too.
This video has clearly left a big impression on all of you, which is, I think, a good thing. It's not just popcorn or entertainment that you watch. Was there a particular part that sort of hit you or that resonated with you? Was there one aspect of it that made you think, God damn, or the shame?
For me personally, the social and cultural aspect was a really big shock because there is a loneliness pandemic that everyone talks about, not only in Korea but everywhere in the world. But I didn't realize that people will not have siblings. Like I never really thought about it. Like we will have less friends, maybe less relationship. But for me, I have an older sister, so for me to not have a sibling is quite sad. And all of these jokes about the only children and how they cannot share. And I was like, oh, maybe like this is the future. People will not be able to share this sibling love and not being able to share from the childhood. So this was something that I didn't consider even.
It's important to fight with your siblings and
Yeah.
grow and
Yeah.
learn and share and everything like that. Yeah, my two kids are always fighting with each other because they're only a year apart. And so they're very close, very competitive. And I think it's very healthy for them to go through this.
I think you learn how to survive through like competing and like sharing your youth with your siblings. I think that's pretty important.
What's it like having an older Korean brother?
It was quite wild when I was young, but these days I feel like it's really good to have siblings because you can share a lot of useful stories. He teach me a lot of things. Sometimes I can hate him, but normally I think it's good to have siblings.
For me, I got hooked up into some weird point. I know that there's like all those like impressive, important things they talked about, and I know I when I talk about those, I could look more smart. But I got caught up to this point, and it was the point, the part where like South Korea's cities are going to turn into ghost towns and vanish, and in the worst situation that we have to like emigrate to other countries. And I have this like weird faith that living in your own country is the safest thing. And I think like to live in your own country and being protected as a nation is an advantage. So I think the fact that I have to move out of Korea in 2060, like in 2060, I'm in my middle age, so I have plenty of my time to live my life. So the fact that I have to move out and live in foreign countries kind of like made me feel unsafe and unstable. It kind of like scared me. So yeah, that part was that part kind of like stimulated me emotionally and mentally the most.
I love your patriotism. It's good though. Like
Yeah.
we often don't associate young people with being patriotic. Sometimes it's seen as nationalistic or not cosmopolitan and liberal
Right.
enough in the West at least. But tell me, just say something more about your patriotism.
I think I have a big affection in Seoul, especially because I was born and I lived in Seoul for all of my life. And I think Seoul is like the most beautiful city in the world. And like there are so many things to enjoy. And I think that is why like foreigners are like coming to Korea to experience all those things. Yeah.
We're so saturated with contents that are foreign, like through SNS and like with the globalization and everything. So it's easier to be attached to foreign contents and foreign movies, foreign musics and everything, rather than conserving and preserving and strengthening our affection towards our own traditional modes of entertainment and stuff, right? And if we do that successfully, I think we would be able to get to healthy patriotism that she is referring to, I guess. And that just crossed my mind as she was speaking.
The comment section, there was one in there that I saw, which was, imagine chilling on YouTube and then you find a video telling you your country is over. I was like, damn, right? That's quite heavy. Did you see anything in the responses, in the comment sections online, other reactions to this?
There was one comment that struck me, kind of, it was a comment saying that this crisis was not the problem of economics in particular, but it was a crisis of spirit. And that part deeply resonated with me because at the end, the video says that this low birth rate crisis is existential in nature. And I believe that to be the case. And so to see that comment, I had my belief and my perspective on this issue affirmed. I got it affirmed. So it was a special moment to really sympathize with the people and to get a recognition that I'm not the only one who thinks that this issue is just economic or political in nature, but it is actually existential. So,
What is the spiritual or existential nature of it? Can you describe it?
well, I'll speak it in terms of modernity, right? So there is one book in particular that I found very interesting, and so Carl Jung, for whom I have much admiration. So in one of his books is called Modern Men in Search of a Soul. I think it's been a while, but at there he Jung kind of outlines the negative effects and the ramifications that could unfold if the modernization process happens too quickly, and if there's an abrupt introduction of modern values into a society that is not prepared, right? And one of the consequences is that everyone just works towards perfection and proficiency. And that's exactly what's transpiring in Korea, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, in many ways it is. Well, I could go on, but like that's like the most important part to speak on, I guess.
Which is interesting because politicians and everybody wants to throw money at the problem, and they want
Right.
to offer policies and things to increase the low birth rate and have $500 if you have children or something. But
They're not aiming right.
do any of you share this idea that it's spiritual, it's existential that Ray's talking about? Or
And also to add on it, to add on your comment is that it's like a rejoinder. So isolation of individuals, right? So the philosophy existentialism, like the reason why existentialism became an existentialism is because of the isolation of individuals that took place in the 19th century Europe, right? Led by Nietzsche, Freud, and everyone else. And I think we are seeing a phenomenon that is at least akin or identical to what is going on in Korea. That's why I see it to be deeply existential in nature. Like this everything. Isolation of individuals and low birth rate crisis and the demolition of families and destabilization of the, mutual trust among societal members and everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the central cause and the solution can be found if you attend to it.
where?
Like this existential part. Yeah.
In the other, rather than in ourselves or in other people, in community or...
In ourselves. And also in other people. Well, in my understanding, in order to foster a healthy harmony, healthy social harmony, we have to look into ourselves first, right? And then we can move on. And then we can gradually expand the horizon in which the mutual trust is built.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because about solving this problem, a lot of politics, they try to solve it with money, like in this capitalism and all the modern society. But as he told me, the like spiritual thing or the main reason, they are not trying to understand the important thing that's in the middle of this situation. So I think that's a really important part to understand. And this may be sensitive, but a lot of politics are the kind of old male people who didn't even try to be in this, like who didn't even be in these shoes, you know? So I think we need a new solution or people who can talk about this problem.
Yeah. I think we have to reframe this issue in a new light rather than just approaching it from an economic or political perspective. We have to reframe it differently. Yeah.
Modernity normally likes data and statistics and figures and values and graphs and pie charts and all of these things, but that's not the world of spirituality and morals and emotions and existential. I'm curious, do you guys feel like there is a spiritual crisis? You've talked about the beauty of Seoul and why people come here and the patriotism. Is there a spiritual crisis, like individually, existentially? Do you feel that as you're walking around going, I need a ice Americano, but I'm going for a spiritual crisis? Is that something that occurs to you guys? It's a weird question, but
Well, I don't know about other people, but I know for myself that, yes, well, I wouldn't say I'm in a crisis, but I'm always, as I live my life, I'm always walking towards a spiritual integration, which I believe I'm missing as of right now. It's also Jungian psychology, the notion of the self. And I think to some degree, everyone in modern society has a problem of spiritual disintegration. Maybe they're conscious about it or unconscious about it, but I think it exists. Yeah.
I think it must be so hard to be in your 20s in this society with social media and things like that. I think it's a bit easier if you've grown up without the access to information, the focus on identity and presentation and outward appearance is very different. And so I have a great sympathy for people that grow up and try to navigate this world. I think it must be very difficult.
Very.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what Celine was saying about empathy and understanding for people that are making the decisions. They don't inhabit your world. They might be in their 50s and 60s with access to money and power, and they live a different life that you guys don't necessarily live. We can get close with empathy, but I think that's a really interesting angle. Was there anything else in the comment section that struck you before we move on?
I had one. Like the comments were all like so super cool, and I always like used to wonder why would YouTubers or like influencers would watch the comments about their video, but I got to like understand them, and I found this one, and this one caught my attention the most. It was someday history might remember South Korea not for K-pop or technology, but as the first nation to collapse under the weight of its own impossible standards. And this one like gave me a goosebumps. Like this comment like made this situation like feel more real, because like even watching the video, it kind of like felt so unreal, and it felt like a faraway thing for me. But like reading this comment, I really got to imagine the world where South Korea has actually vanished. Yeah, so and like the impossibly high standards that is breaking our country down. I used to have this thought that like when those standards were appropriate, I thought that those standards are the things that made Korea develop this big and to reach the top in some aspects, and the thing that brought power like globally to us. So the fact that this like high standards are like destroying our country, that was pretty shocking for me. Yeah.
The thing that helped build the country, and now the thing that might help destroy.
Because it's too much these days. Yeah.
So regarding the comments, I actually checked the other platforms as well. I checked the TikTok and Instagram as well, which was a mistake because every time I go there, I'm so disappointed in people. But for the YouTube, there was a comment that said this video should be dubbed and captioned in Korean too. Might help reach a wider audience and help them out. And 21,000 of people liked it, and I was like, Koreans know about this problem. It's not like they do not know about it, but so many people think that they're smarter than the average person, so they always give advices. And for Instagram and TikTok, it was usually like this. It was saying about the 4B movement, which is so funny because none of you right now mentioned anything about like gender issue or feminism, but somehow immediately when you go into the Western social media, it's always something about problems like this. And they talk about xenophobia and racism, but it's not close to being the main issues in my opinion. So I think it kind of makes the Korea and Korean image further from reality for Western viewers and for Western media as well.
Yeah, I think the comment that she mentioned or the video, I was surprised that it didn't sound delusional. It sounds quite accurate and reasonable. I was surprised by that. And I'm doing I'm doing a Seoul tour to foreigners as a volunteer service, and every time we do that, we plan with the beautiful places in Seoul. We try to show them like good things about Seoul and Korea, and I figured out that kind of make me blind, and I was focusing on just showing the good things about it. So personally, I was also trying to ignore the social or cultural problem that it really exists. And the comment from all other countries, I think it's time to tell them about the real problem that Korea is facing, not only the good things.
Your tours are going to be very different in the future. Then you're going to take them to the
Yeah,
back alleys, and the John Peel statue. And
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna add some comments.
Marina mentioned that when she went on to different social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, she saw a lot of comments related to gender and 4B movements and things, but that was perhaps not what you saw. And none of you have mentioned it yet either. In the spiritual crisis that Korea faces in this low birth rate and everything that's happening, is feminism and the 4B and the gender thing is that a part of it? Is it a big part of it? Is it a small part?
I think it's a big part of it. I think it's either that gender problem that's characteristic of Korean society as of now is either the product of the spiritual crisis that I described, or it also causes the further spiritual disintegration. And I think both of them can be the case equally.
Yeah, I think the gender issue is a cause of the problem, and the low birth rate is kind of what we have because of that cause. But people are more focusing on that just gender issue, not the actual thing that it occurred. So I think we really have to focus on what it brought up. For example, the low birth rate, so we could do something about it. Yeah, not just focusing on the like a sensitive and like a gender issue that we can see on social.
I mean, and also gender issue is also, I think it has been brought into Korea partly due to the fact that the expansion of SNS and the global community, right? I mean, the feminism movement and all the movements originated in Europe, and those are Western and modern values. And as they entered the Korean society in an abrupt and compressed manner, I think we're seeing the consequences of it.
Yeah. And I think I agree, and I think it's fair to say that all countries have gender issues. Negotiating the roles and responsibilities of men and women in a society that's dealing with social media, that's also dealing with AI, that's also dealing with industrialization and moving ahead in reproductive manners, contraception, abortion, and such forth, but then also with issues related to LGBT and homosexuality and adoption. All countries are trying to navigate where do men, women, and some countries even have a wider spectrum than those two. How do we do all of this? So I think it's not exclusive to Korea,
Right.
but some people do see it primarily through that lens. Yeah. Korea is over. This video has gotten more than 10 million views, 11 million views, I should say now, in a few weeks. Why do you think this is? How do you feel about this popularity? Because even people that haven't searched it, they've seen it. It's there. It's in the algorithm. It's being pushed. Any thoughts on its popularity?
Well, I actually was following the account, this YouTube channel, and I've been watching their video about like climate science and all over the place, but I haven't seen any videos for like 2 years, I think. So I was like, wow, they are still making videos. And I kind of went to see the views of other videos, and I went to Excel. I made a table and I counted the average of like the last 30-ish videos, and it was like 6.5 million on average. So the Korean video is actually like twice of the average views, which I think is quite surprising. But there are so many people talking about Korea online, and I feel like from the strategic point of view, they probably made it because it was talked about. So, I mean, as probably YouTube channels should do, but 11 million views, I was shocked with by the amount. And I was following the account, so I was not very surprised that it popped up in my YouTube, but still I kind of forgot about the channel, but then I remembered.
I love that you made an Excel table. I want you to send that to me and post it in the video. I'll put it in there. That's brilliant.
As a YouTuber, I think they made a really good hookup title. And then it's not just a title, but it's really accurate about the problem. And since you played the video, they just push you into all this reason why this is important, what you should do. I think that's why people not only try to ignore it, but try to face it, and they try to solve the problem. And I also replayed it several times because I needed to kind of reminded what the real reason is and what I can do as an individual. So I think that's an important reason why they hit so many views.
Say something about the title, Celine.
The title?
Career is over. It's a good title for YouTube.
It's a good hookup title. I think that makes you click the video. And if you are a Korean who are living here, you want to check out why this is going on. So I think that's why.
Yeah. So like if you see the comments, like you could see that there are lots of foreigners who've actually watched this video. And I think the foreigners, like, you know, when you look Korea from the outside, it looks like a beautiful place with like, and nothing seems really like wrong. So like, and like all those K-pops and K-beauties and K-dramas, like foreigners are mesmerized by those. And even though they know about the current situation in Korea by watching the news, I think they don't stay long enough to truly feel that in Korea. So I guess they just clicked this video because like thinking like, this is the Korea I've been like a couple of months ago, or like, are they talking about the same Korea I'm thinking of? And as a perspective of Koreans, like she said, you know, the video title is just, you know, drawing our attention, and it's just like shouting at us to click it. And we also like want to hear what they are talking about our country. So it's pretty obvious for us to click. And I think, you know, like this topic, like fertility rates, I think in Korea, they're usually discussed usually in election pledge, in the context of like election pledge, or like as a topic of election debate. So when the election season is over, I think this topic just appears once in a while in the news. So it doesn't appear constantly in the news. So every like Koreans know that this is a huge problem in South Korea, but we don't really like get to. This topic is not like an everyday issue for us. So it's like hard to notice, and I think it's also like we all know that it's a problem, but we don't have this like exact data and the exact number in our minds. We just know that it's a problem. So, but this video kind of like shows us this data and the numbers like visually. So I guess as a Korean, I was like watching this video, wondering what they will show us next. Yeah. So I guess that is why Koreans watch and foreigners watch this video.
Does it feel different when it comes from an international source? So if it comes from 조선일보, the Hankyoreh, or SBS or KBS, this is coming from a very popular YouTube channel that a lot of students do watch because it breaks down issues very well. Does it feel different when it comes from international content?
First of all, when Korean media or news reports report about this low birth rate crisis, in my observation, and it's been the case for me, is that we, for momentarily, like for that brief moment, we are occupied by the worries and the apprehension about the future, right? But then when it's over, we move on, like nothing happened, and there's no practical solution or action that's been put into it. So it's like, I think we built a sense of this sense of neglect and apathy towards it. Because, I mean, like everyone said, everyone knows this is an issue. I do, and everyone does. But I don't think, as of right now, like enough effort or attention had been put into preventing or addressing this issue seriously. I don't think it doesn't match if you consider the severity and the gravity of the issue. And so, yeah, and if we look at it from this perspective, then the global news reports, it could be a way to arouse a sense of danger and a sense of much more practical apprehension where it could actually materialize into practical solutions. So, and I think we need that. I think we need global attention more than anything. Because as far as I'm concerned, Korean people, they're very, not very, but to some degree, they are very susceptible, or they care a lot about international attention. And
Certainly Western attention.
certainly. And
If it was China doing this,
yeah,
video,
and-
people would,
right. And I'm not denigrating
Yeah.
Korea for it, but I think that's true. So I think it's a commendable video. It truly is. It's also useful, and we need it. And yeah,
It's amazing what a punch a 12, 13, 14, 15-minute video can do after reams of newspapers and everything else has been doing, and they've condensed this issue into a way that's presentable but also understandable and motivating people to action. Because it's very easy to give people data and statistics, and we all talk about 0.7 or this world's lowest birth rate, and you can reel off the statistics, but they're just statistics. It doesn't motivate people, or it doesn't call people to action or make them aware of actually what's going on. So I think that's the very interesting thing about this video, that it seems to have moved people in a way. It's woken them up or alerted them.
it hit them.
Mm.
It certainly hit me.
Yeah.
But ironically, it had much more impact than the Korean media for me. And I think it's because if you step back and watch Korea, maybe you can see more the real problem that's going on. But we're too focusing on the thing that is happening in front of us. So I think that's why sometimes we need idea of international people.
You sent me an article about no kids zones being replaced by old people zones and things like this, kids zones being replaced by adult zones. Do you see this kind of stuff a lot in Korea, in the Korean media? So there it is. You've had the international YouTube video. Does it feel different when Korean media talks about this? You said it's only at election time. It feels political to you rather than spiritual.
But like when they talk about it other than political ways, I think when Korean medias talk about it, it feels more sad for me, because, like it basically feels the same. It just feels the same because it just makes us that we need this alertness. But when Korean media talks about it, I think it feels like there is nothing left that we can do except for like accepting and admitting this situation, or changing the thoughts of people of having kids. So yeah, I think when Korean media talks about it, it feels more sad to me.
How do you compare this sort of low birth rate issue to other issues in your life? So you're all young adults, you live and you work and you study and you go about your day to day, and so you're concerned with perhaps tuition fees and housing prices and safety and competition and lookism and various other factors, education standards, and homework, and it's hard, I guess. In your daily life, like how does this compare to those other things? Where does it normally register for you, the low birth rate?
For me, I want to connect this problem with the growth of the elder people. I believe that future Korea has to be ready for this. Like, they need more places or institution for the older people, and they need a program or actual political strategy for this. And this is, I'm going through a lot of thing related with my grandparents. I can see that they're going through a lot of things like loneliness because they live alone and they don't exactly have place to spend their time. And I think this will be like worse in the future because there will be no children and there will be a lot of elderly people. So I was thinking about my grandparents and also the social problem about how to solve this.
Yeah, I mean, to speak on the generational problem, the generational conflict, I think it already is one of our primary concerns in our Korean society. And I think the gulf, the divide between the generations will widen if this low birth rate crisis is not resolved properly. And I think the conflict will intensify. And it'll create many more related problems, which then will be extremely hard to solve because they're so interconnected and intertwined. And I think right now is the time to solve it.
What does that generational conflict look like, or what are some of the issues? How does it manifest?
Well, first of all, the youth, the 20s and the 30s in Korean society, and the 40s, 50s, 60s, there's a value conflict. So they're driven by different values, and obviously they grew up in a different society, and reasonably so because Korea certainly had such a radical development towards modernization. So there's a huge value conflict, and I think that manifests on all levels in our society, insofar as that society is constituted by people who are different in generations.
What are some young people values?
I would say Western values.
Okay.
For example, I think they're more post-materialistic. I think they want freedom. I think they want equality. Those ideal 관념적인 가치들, as opposed to the older generation who, in my understanding, seem to be more occupied with the thought of providing for the family or creating material wealth or establishing a dominant social position, something like that. So I think there's a difference, radical difference between them.
And I'm also afraid that the conflict will become worse because in the future, a lot of young people who work should be paying the tax for the older people or for the society. So I can see that younger people having problem with that, and they won't be happy to do that. So that's the kind of thing that society has to go through. Yeah.
As you were mentioning the young people values, Ray, the youngest member of our group was just sitting there nodding furiously
Right.
to you. She
think-
agrees with you.
No, I think I'm very immature to answer this question yet. Yeah, so like most of the things my parents like handle that for me. So I think I have to like grow up more to really like think about this question. Yeah.
For the conflict, though, I did my exchange in Germany last semester, actually, and I was living in a dormitory, and the close by was a school. And during breaks, the children would leave, and they would laugh, and it would be so loud. And at first, it was a little bit annoying, but then I was like, I don't remember children's laugh in Korea. Like, I don't think I ever saw children running for like good 40 minutes. Even though I live in like usually university areas, so there are a lot of students, usually not kids, but even when you see like strollers, they're not kids, they're dogs sometimes. And for people, for foreigners, it's actually so weird that the obsession with you wanted to take care of something, but you don't want to have a child, so you just adopt a dog or like an animal. And a lot of foreigners mention that to me when they are coming here as well. But when I speak with Korean people, they're like, yeah, I just go to academia after school, or I go to taekwondo or like musical academy and all of that. And I'm like, but when do you like have fun? And all of them are saying, well, we cannot do that. And I mean, it's sort of impacting, I think, also the society right now.
Yeah. About like children laughing, my friend from America, she was here like 2 months ago, and the first thing that she told me was, "There's no kids in the street." Like I can't hear like kids laughing in the street, so that was really interesting for me. And she was here only for a few weeks, but she really just catch the problem of the Korea real fast. So I think, yeah, sometimes we have to step back and look at the real problems.
The dogs in strollers really annoys me a little bit because I just feel sorry for the dog because I see it when I'm running by the river in the mornings and I see the people walking and they have a pushchair or a pram, a stroller. And I feel sorry for the dog. Like, dogs like walking. If you say to a dog, do you want to go for a walk? They're like, God damn, yes, I want to walk. And so I feel sorry for the dogs in that sense. They're missing something of being a dog. Can we say something about, it's not spiritual, it's not financial, but it's that day-to-day life of being a Korean, which, you know, some people, you well know it, and some people that come here, they realize, wow. But some people might not quite understand what that day-to-day life is, that competition, that education. Can you say something about how that plays into this conversation, how you've experienced it, how you see this affecting the broader topic that we're addressing?
I mean, as a foreigner, it's actually quite interesting to study in Korean university because I was shocked how students are ready to tell professor that someone is cheating, for example, because in Uzbekistan, for example, we are always, when someone is cheating, you're just silently letting people cheat. There is no such a high pressure and there is no ranking as much as in Korea. And people do not talk about their grades. They do not talk about their projects. So for me, it was a little bit step back. I had to step back and think, oh, okay, like we're not talking about our projects, I guess. We're not talking about our midterm exams, or like we're not talking about average or what we thought was easy. You have to say that it was so difficult. Oh, I was not studying. I didn't know how to answer that question. And for me, it was a little bit shocking to adapt to this sort of rules and very strong competition. But you guys grew up with that, so I guess you have different perspective on that.
Yeah, like we were born and raised in that atmosphere, so I'm afraid that I can't let go of it, even though I want to. Because as a 20s in Korea, everything's like competitive. Being in school, getting married, or getting a job, everything you have to compete for it. So I'm afraid that I have to live like that during the rest of my life. Yeah, and the only time that I felt free about it was when I was studying abroad. The environment was like different, so it kind of my eyes was opened, and that was a really good memory of it. And I realized that I was in a quite competitive society. Yeah, that was the time when I realized it.
Well, for my case, I would assume that I quite a different backgrounds, especially educational background from you guys, because after graduating elementary school, I moved to the States, and for middle school and high school, I attended school in America, right? And American education is very, very different from the Korean education. Although I haven't really got through the Korean education in the middle and high school, I have a brother, and I have many of my relatives and friends, and I hear stories about them. And the amount of effort and the mental stress that are necessary for the students to attend high-level elite universities that are almost obsessively pursued is quite astounding. Like for me especially, because I grew up in different educational upbringing. And I think it's pathological. I think it's safe to say it is pathological because, I mean, what do students know, right? It's like, I mean, what, including myself, like, I think I don't know anything, and so do students. And especially when they're in their teens, they, in my opinion, must have as much experience as possible to really navigate and investigate what they truly like, rather than just being completely compelled to have a parochial perspective about their future and just putting everything on the line just to study and sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours a day, and just pursuing something they might not truly want. And I hear a lot of stories about Korean students, especially when they attend elite universities, which is what they've been working for the past like 20 years or something, is that when they actually go into elite university that they wanted, they lose meaning. And that's because it's not what they truly wanted. And this sort of pathological obsession towards perfection is exactly the sort of example of the spiritual disintegration that I've mentioned earlier. Yes.
I think we would talk about the spiritual disintegration at the end and how we can perhaps revive or resuscitate that. This same pathological obsession that you see, is that the same pathological obsession that drives K-pop performances, that drives education further, that drives beauty standards? Is it similar, do you think?
It is similar in nature. I think they share same essence. So I think it was her who talked about that. That our drive for perfection actually has allowed the Korean society to manage such stunning progress that we managed, right? So in the past, it certainly served its purpose. But then what I'm claiming is when the problems emerge and the problems that we ignored or we were not able to prevent from happening, if they emerge now, we actually have to re-examine the very mechanism that drove this problem to emerge. And that's why I urged earlier to reframe this situation in a new light.
New solutions,
New
approaches,
perspective.
new perspectives.
New perspective.
I agree.
Right.
Susan, any thoughts on this competition?
I actually had a very happy life compared to my friends, because my older sister, she was like born with this I guess genius DNA, so she was like an elite student, and so she liked studying. So my parents, like she was doing something she liked, the studying, but it's so competitive in Korea, so it got harder to her. So my parents saw that she was having a hard time and saw her suffering, and they didn't want me to go to the same phrase. So they kind of like saw that I was I guess a child who was very free and who liked just to play, and they kind of like just let me do the things I wanted to do. So like comparing to my friends, I had a very happy high school life, and yeah, so I don't really like feel those education. I never really like felt those education pressures, but I think if I kind of like relate this to fertility rates in Korea, I think young adults in South Korea are kind of like afraid. I think they kind of have this fear that they might fail. It's kind of like weird to relate failure and having a children, but I think that I think that they have this fear that they might fail, that if their children doesn't live up to those expectations they get growing up, I think they just think that as a failure, and Korea's standards and Korea's society think that as a failure. And I think that is like one of the things that makes young adults in Korea kind of like back up from having children. Yeah, and to have a successful life and living up to those Korea standards, we all have to like go to elite universities or like get a job at top tier companies, and that is the right thing, and that is the successful thing in Korea standards, and that leads to money, and like these days materialism is all over Korea, and young adults in Korea, they're obsessed with money. So I think if they think I think they think children as a cost, like expense, and they think having children as a burden and a stress for them also. Yeah, so I've never felt like those pressures growing up, but I think I could feel one sooner or later because I've just like stepped into this society. So yeah.
I think what I learn is the importance of parents and values that are handed down in the household and the people around you, because sometimes when we talk about society or what's happening, we're talking about an abstract concept that we can't actually see or touch. We're talking about sort of statistics of so many million people or hundreds of thousands of people. But when you talk about your own experiences, you generally talk about the influence that people have had on you, the parents, the upbringing that you've had, the educational values that have been instilled on you. They might be competitive, or they might be freedom, they might be liberation, or they might be sort of the sense of adventure. So it strikes me that parents play such an important role in managing these things. What happens in the house? What I really feel sometimes, and you were mentioning it earlier, Celine, that we miss is that when we used to have 3 generations under one roof, the grandparents would often spend a lot of time with the children, and you would have that biological transfer of wisdom and values that would go on. And it's not like going to school and learning it from a teacher, right? Because that's different. But when you're learning from your grandparents, or you're sitting around and you're watching how they act at dinner tables and things, I think that's where a lot of information gets transferred. And there's this kind of biological imperative to it, because you are also part of the same line sometimes. And we're missing that a little bit as more and more people choose to live alone, or even those with grandparents, they don't sometimes live under their own roof because the grandparents want their second life or second retirement and these things that are happening. Can I ask you about your own thoughts on having children? I realize that asking young people in their 20s about this, because the reason I'm asking you is that you guys would clearly be good parents. I'm not pressuring you to say that you should be, but based on what you've said, you clearly have the maturity, the intelligence to, if you chose. Do you think about children at all? Listen to that silence. It's deafening. By the way, I didn't plan to have children or get married. I was going to be a bachelor for my whole life.
Really?
Yeah. And when I got to about 60 or 70, I was going to marry an old lady and just spend some time together. That was my plan. And it didn't quite go that way. So don't feel upset if that's your plan as well.
I definitely want children. 2 of them. 1 daughter and the other a son.
Quite specific.
Very specific.
The daughter comes first? Or the son?
No, son comes first. Yeah, because the daughter has to be bred as like a princess, and the oppa has to protect her, right? And,
that's exactly what I did.
yeah. And you didn't even plan to. It's and I think having children and having them, watching them grow and just rearing them and fostering them into a competent adult is one of the most meaningful things that I can contribute to the world. That's my belief. So if I can, and if the situations allow, I would definitely want children.
Just for the record, my children weren't accidents. They were planned. It's just when I was in my 20s, I had no plans to have children. That's very different. I'll get in trouble for saying this, but we're well into the conversation, so most people won't be listening by now. But once we had our first child, and it was a son, Edward, we planned to have another one, and my wife really wanted a girl, and my mum also wanted us to have a girl. She's been waiting for a girl for 40 years. And I said to my wife, yeah, but what if it's a boy? Will you be okay with that? Because me and my brother, my 2 cousins, and we're all boy, girl, boy in my side of the family. I said to my wife, yeah, what if it's another boy? Will you be okay with that? And she looked at me very seriously. When they give you that look, she looked at me very seriously and said, I will make a girl. And I'm just like, what? Yeah, I believe you.
Mom is strong.
Yes.
Moms are strong.
That's where I learned all about the temongs, the prenatal dreams, and the peaches and the dragons and the snakes and all of these things. It's a beautiful part of the Korean culture. So you need to have 2.1 children.
2.1?
Yeah, that's to maintain the fertility rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to get the 0.1.
Somehow, yeah. Children.
I want to have one too. My answers could always change. It's not a fixed answer. And I totally understand why young adults in Korea doesn't want to have children. But I literally love babies, and I would love to have one of my own in the future. Yeah, so I would like to have children. Yeah.
Just one?
No, two.
Two?
Yeah.
Girl, boy. Have you
I
thought
don't
about
know,
this?
like-
Any names worked out yet, Susan?
Not names. Because like, it's too far away
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But I would like to have two girls, because me and my sister, we're pretty close, and she is my like best friend, and I like that thing, the bond we have. Yeah, so I would like to have two girls or two boys, like same gender, I guess. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I never thought about it till like last year about this problem, like me getting married or having kids.
Getting old, Celine.
Yeah. And my friends from Georgia, America, they're in a quiet like southern area, so they know what they're gonna wear for the wedding. They know their kid's future name, and they asked me like about my idea, and I thought about it, and I think I also wanted two kids, but after living in quite like a rural area, I think three is also good. If the environment is ready and if I can afford it, I think having a lot of kids and making them siblings gonna make your life more warm. So yeah, that's my idea.
How do people around you react? Have you told anyone else this before? Have you told any of your Korean friends, international friends? Do they laugh at you? Do they say that's lovely? Or
I told my mom that maybe three, and she was like, okay. and she told me that you told me that you don't want to get married, and now you want to have three. So that was kind of shocking, but who knows? It's the future, so.
So we're up to 7 around the table at the moment.
I guess for me it's different because in Uzbekistan I checked the birth rate is like 3.3, so we don't have that problem at all. And
Wow.
and yeah, and like all of my friends, they have 2 siblings or 3 siblings, so it's like 4 children for the family. And I'm 21, but a lot of people from my high school right now are getting married, and this is normal. So as much as I don't want to think about marriage or kids, it's kind of nagging on you as you get older, I guess. But I do want to have kids. But whenever I speak with Korean friends, some of my Korean friends or international friends from more developed countries, they usually are quite not shocked per se, but they are quite curious why. And I remember I was talking with my friend, and I actually said that, oh, but I think I will be a good mother. And she said, oh, but you don't have to give birth to a child just to prove that you will be a good mother. And I was like, yeah, actually. But it's quite controversial topic, and I know that a lot of people my age, they are not either thinking about it or they decided that they don't want to have kids. But obviously we're still young, and our opinion can change throughout life.
Can you say something about 3.3? Can you say something about that birth rate or how it's perceived by the country, whether it's seen positively, any factors that contribute to it? Because
I think mostly it's religion, because in Uzbekistan it's mostly Muslim people, and well, I'm not a Muslim, so I don't know exactly what it says in Quran, but I know that it's like you should give birth to more children, and I'm scared to say something bad. I just want to be clear that I love my country, and it's really bad, but we are kind of, people are into each other's businesses, so whenever there is a couple that get married, immediately people are asking about children, and you have to give a birth. And if they're not giving birth to children, people are starting questioning it. So we kind of growing up with this idea of legacy and giving birth and all of those things. So yeah, I know that in some countries, families with 3 children considers are like family with not too much children, but like the government gives some sort of support to those families. But in Uzbekistan, we don't have that because it's kind of average.
it's amazing how something can be so close, but then demographically and culturally and spiritually so very different. I mean, we're not going the other side of the world to go there. And of course, in Korea in the 1960s and 70s, the Park Chung-hee government, they had to tell people, like, stop having kids. They had all these posters going around going, two is enough and things like this, because people used to have very large families here. And if maybe you look at your grandparents' or generation, or maybe for you, your great-grandparents' generation or something, but it would be 4 or 5 brothers and sisters and siblings. I didn't ask you this question about whether you want to have children or anything before you came, and yet all of you have kind of said, yeah, I want to have 2. Is that surprising? It feels like I've just planted you in here and like you're doing some gukbong positive message. But do you know what I mean about that? It's like, hang on, I thought Koreans were not meant to be having children. Why is that? Why is there that difference?
Maybe for me, because like I've never really, like I said, I never really like experienced Korea's society yet. So I think I have relatively positive thoughts about it. Yeah, compared to like people who have experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just an ideal plan, but I also know that I'm gonna face the problem of having my own house and getting a good job. So I believe that someday that kind of problem will hit me. But at some point of my mind, I'm just planning the life with kids. Yeah.
And I feel like with our generation, Generation Z, we hear about environment and economy in a bad light. So obviously, when we hear all of the news politically and everything, you kind of don't want to create a life with all of those very negative future predictions. And I know that some of my friends who came here, immigrated here, and they have like Korean partners. And when they are talking about kids, they say that I don't even know how to raise a child in this system because I didn't grow up in this system. I think you might relate to this because they're considering even to sending a child abroad because they hear all of these nightmares about education and pressure, and they truly do not know how to raise a child. And I feel like that also kind of a result of the social norms.
I think people are getting better at understanding humans and humanity and education and love. And, you know, there were all these memes online that Korean parents would, or Asian parents more broadly, like China, they would never say, I love you, and this kind of thing to push. And I think that's slowly changing. And that meme comes as the result of war and poverty a little bit, you know, this don't spoil the child and make them grow. And so now we're getting a little bit better. There is a wonderful thing that when you do have a child, there's no manual or there's no guidebook or something like this. It's like, oh my God, what do we do now? And it's getting a little bit easier. There's more education, there's more knowledge out there. René Girard also talks about humans as mimetic creatures. So we are like memes in the fact that if all of your friends are having children, your likelihood of having children increases dramatically. If all your friends around you are getting divorced, your possibility of divorce increases dramatically. We're influenced by people around us. And so I think maybe the more people, if people do decide to have children, it might sort of, I don't want to say that this is possible or this is how it will happen, but at the moment, people aren't having children, so the people around them aren't having children, and it's sort of creating this mimetic effect. But if 2 or 3 do start having children, then it might start growing, not exponentially, but it might spread. Recently, we've heard about the low birth rate going up a little bit. That's been in the news. Do you have hope for the future of this country? We talked about Korea is over, and that's been the title. Is it an existential crisis? Do you feel confident about the future? Looking forward, is it like making that noise that Korean people like to make when there's trouble? Tell me about the future, guys.
I think about the people getting influenced. These days there are a lot of YouTube channels, you know, like Teha or like adorable babies and their family doing a YouTube channel. I think that might influence people of having this big, lovely family. And so I think I don't want to lose hope of solving this problem. Yeah.
I won't speak for too long, but I think IU said when in that Poksak drama that she made, When Life Gives You Tangerines, that she was hoping to provide positive influences, that not every drama needs to be about girl boss or single people going off in their careers and society problems, but to try to create a positive image online in media. Yeah.
Historically speaking, if Korea was capable of pulling ourselves out of this absolute poverty after the Korean War and made this economic and social political revolutionary evolution that we managed, if it could do that, why can't we manage this crisis? I mean, it's an ideal, definitely, but I am optimistic. Not completely optimistic, but
That's the philosopher in you, edging your bets. You've spoken a lot today about this spiritual reframing, reawakening. How does one go about doing that? Do you have to stand outside the international building at Hanyang and say, come and join the light people? Or, I'm joking, of course, but how does that happen? How does that take place?
well, obviously, that's not my major, but I'm just profoundly interested in ideas about psychology and everything. So I have been reading this literature for a year now, and I'm not an expert, but what I am doing in my life, so it's a subjective advice, I guess, is to find my own voice. To find my own voice, because from what I've observed is that what happens is, like, ideas and like language, sometimes we think in language, right? We obviously think in language, and we tend to think that those languages are our languages that reflect our character. I don't think that's always the case. So it's like, so I'm very careful with what I'm saying and with what I'm writing. And before every word, I think always, because I think that's where I find my own voice, and that voice is the antidote to the spiritual crisis that I described. It could be one way, I guess, to combat this problem. Yeah.
I agree with you completely in the fact that sometimes the words and ideas that we use are not our own. I find myself as I get older, more and more, saying something and then going, oh my God, I sound like my grandmother. Like, just even in the way I say it and the words that I use and the intonation of my voice. And then I look at my children and I can see me and my wife and other relatives in them, in their sleeping position, in the position that they sleep, right? And nobody taught them that. They just sleep in the exact same positions of members of our family, and the actions, the behaviors, the thought processes, they are often passed down through generations. Right. And so it's about finding what is actually me amongst all of that. It's a combination of many.
Yeah, and so it's like Jung said that ideas have people and people don't have ideas, and I think that's right. And we can also extrapolate it into Korean society. Is that, like I said, the highly competitive, modes of living in Korea is that they're sort of possessed by this idea or a motivation that compels them towards pathological perfection, in my understanding, right? And that's a form of possession, and that's not true identity. And if it's not their true identity and they're acting on it, then they have a spiritual crisis. And one of the ways that we can solve it is that they have to be, or I have to be, or we have to be true to ourselves and be thoughtful with what we think, speak, and communicate.
In South Korea, name shison is a hell of a drug. The public gaze, or doing things because other people...
Precisely.
Why are you doing that? Because that's what everyone else is doing. And I think a lot of people live in South Korea. I'm generalizing here terribly. But that nunchi, that public gaze, that name shison, I think it influences a lot of people's behavior. If my kids don't go to this school, they will be a failure because that's what they believe other people have decided. And so I think there is always this second guessing and this judgment and that collectivism that has naturally occurred in Korean society. And there is a collectivism here. There is that uri and has many good points. And that's why the prenatal dreams that I mentioned, the taemongs, they come down to different people. And people share dreams in Korea. They have dreams about other people and appear in each other's dreams. But yeah, so individualism as a hope. I like that. the future, guys? You don't have to talk about Carl Jung or psychology.
I'm sorry if it sounded boring, but like,
I actually wanted to respond to it because you talked about how we need to look into ourselves and to others and individualism and all of that. But I think sometimes people tend to look into themselves too much because there's no limitation. You cannot never know yourself for like 100%. So you keep digging into yourself and questioning everything, and then at some point you are at the crisis because you'll not get the answer, and that's all. So sometimes maybe looking at the society, and I think Korea has a really good advantage of having actually communal society, so you can actually somehow rely on some other people, but obviously without losing yourself. So there is like the thin balance that you have to
find the balance.
and it's difficult. Yeah, but regarding the future, even though I do like statistics and numbers, but the visuals from the video is actually like it's going down. But I think it's never just going down. It's sometimes going up and down. And history is repetitive, but at the same time it fluctuates a lot. So I feel like there is a chance, and maybe with the new system, with the new people at the power, it might be changed. But I haven't been living in Korea for a long time, so I cannot really say a lot, I think. But I think there's a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. The video is like saying that Korea is like already doomed, and like it's kind of like describing in a bad way. But there is a word in Korea that 위기는 기회다. So I think that means like crisis is an opportunity, and we can make this crisis into an opportunity, and it depends on how we act. So I think there is still a little bit of hope remaining. And when we talk about this fertility rates, Korean media is always criticize and blame the government or like the policies of them. But I think this kind of problem is no one's fault or like everyone's fault. So I think like blaming some particular system or like particular government or particular person is no good for us. So and I think this video actually so I think like we have this last chance to prevent what's coming and actually act to stop the fall of Korea. So I think this video gave us that opportunity to think about it and to think of some solutions, maybe like being foreigner friendly and making them wanting to live in Korea, and so like making them stay here permanently and like increase the younger population by making foreigners coming in Korea. I think like there could be a way, because like who knows that they could like go to university and find a job and luckily like hopefully make a family and stay here. So I guess being more foreigner friendly could be a way to to make this problem a little bit better.
I personally think that as Korea did economically, it's time to do demographically solve the problem. I believe that maybe Korea can do it, because we went through a lot of crisis, a lot of things through the history. So I think we can go through it. Definitely it will take time and a lot of steps need to be done, but I want to be hopeful. And just in general, I think these days we need more love in our society. Like we need to know how to like love ourselves and love others. There might be impact like political or all like social problems, which is much harder. So I just want Korea and the world to be more warm to each other and lovable. Yeah.
Be lovable.
I wonder how many politicians in the upcoming presidential election will campaign on love and being friendly and warm. It would be nice. Although statistics and data are okay. I still want to see that Excel table. I love it. Before we go to the last question, is there anything we've missed? Is there anything that you're going to have an Ebola kick about if you don't say it before the end?
Well, I want to mention one thing is that so she kind of warned against this kind of sort of tendency to really blame everything on a particular system or a government or a country, right? And I completely agree with that. I think, well, first of all, it is individuals who constitute a government system or a country, right? So as an individual, if you constitute the system and then you ask for a solution, then the solution inevitably has to be found within you because you are the one who constitute the system. And so that's why it has to start on an individual level. And that's also why I said it's a spiritual, individual, and existential problem. Yeah. So now it kind of all kind of snapped together at this point. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Love it.
And it might be out of context, but I just have a question for you. Is there anything that you try to do or try not to do for your kids who are like English and also Korean, like as a parent? Because I was just curious, because who knows, I might marry like foreigners, so I just wanted to know about like your way to like raise the children who might be like confused about their identity, you know.
I think they're not confused about their identity yet. So Edward is 11, Elizabeth will be 10 soon. Edward has asked me the question, Daddy, do all English people have a red face? He wonders about this. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, but no. It's just us. I think they perceive themselves as fully Korean, but with an English grandmother and an English daddy. My daughter Elizabeth is quite proud of me. She's quite proud of having an English daddy. Rather than being Dalpabo, my daughter is Apapabo. I think that's happened. I've only given them one name, and that's the name Tizzard. So they don't have Korean names, and that might be a huge mistake, but there was no manual for life. And so when I was naming them, when I was in my early 30s, and I still didn't really know much about life in my early 30s, I thought, well, you're going to have one name, and you're going to earn it and learn it. And I didn't want them to have this confusion from an early age of having two names. As you get older, you can choose a different name for working conditions and things, right? But I just wanted them to grow up with one single static identity, and then they can go from there. I wrote an article in the paper a couple of years ago, which was titled, Can Korea Have an Ethnic Revolution? So it's had a economic revolution, it's had a political revolution, it's had a cultural revolution, it's done all of these things. Now can it change what it means to be Korean? Can Korea accept Edward and Elizabeth as Korean? And in my class, it was very interesting to me, and I'm talking with young, educated, positive, progressive people, and sometimes the students would say to me, no, they're not Korean, David. And it's kind of like, oh, wow. And it's not the answer that I wanted or expected, but it's the answer that I have to listen to as Korean people talk about it. There is still this concept of, are you Korean? And then other people will say to me, no, absolutely, they're Korean. And David, you can be Korean if you want, right? And so everybody has different views. So I'm sort of trying to bring all of your ideas together to be more foreigner friendly, to understand what it means to be Korean, to use love and individualism. And Edward and Elizabeth, it's nice to live for something, now I'm old at least, other than yourself. So it's very easy to do the work that I do, the things that I do, because there is a meaning that is beyond me, and that is my children. And so it's very easy to get up in the morning, no matter how tired I am or how little sleep I've got, what things I have to do that day. I'm doing it for them, and it's like, would you do this for your children? Like, yeah, of course. And then life becomes so much easier when you have meaning. I'm not sure if that answers your question. So.
It is. It sounds like your English version of 양관식. You leave for, like, you can do everything for your kids. sounds really sweet.
Perhaps, yeah. It's nice to have meaning.
I mean, it was wonderful to hear that particular comment because they kind of affirmed my belief that I previously held. And like I said, I think having children is one of the most meaningful things, if not the most meaningful things they can do. And yeah.
I wish I had more. Honestly, I wish I had more. Me and my wife, we started very late,
Yeah.
because it wasn't, we didn't start in our 20s. If we did, we would have, could have, should have had many more. I think having children is a wonderful thing. But also by the same token, I respect everybody that, chooses their own path or goes their own way with how many children they do or do not want to have. And I think that's the beauty of it. Let me ask you guys then, if there's nothing final to add, recommendations, books, movies, songs, give us something. Susan? I have no idea what you guys are going to say, by the way. Except Ray's going to say something Korean.
I was going to say those yesterday. I'm just kidding.
It was really hard to choose, but I think I told you I love babies, and like watching videos of babies is one of my biggest pleasure these days. So like after a long day, I dive into my bed and watch. Like all week, I wait for their videos to be uploaded. So I would like to recommend this YouTube channel of my two favorite babies, and one is Yujuni from Liju Like, and one is Hyunjo, and the channel's name is Kiyu TV, and they are and he is the son of Korea's comedians. I think every babies in the world are angels, but Korean babies have their own charms. So I think it would be nice to try to watch videos of Korean's baby. And the other thing is...
Before you do that, can you tell me what these videos look like? Because I've never seen any of these videos. I don't know what...
You should try. It's really good.
That's why I asked for recommendations. Yeah.
It's just shows us the daily life of this baby. How he interacts with his parents and what he does after his kindergarten and taking his nap and all those things. It's just a life of baby. Yeah, it's just baby. Yeah.
And I think a lot of younger Koreans learn how to communicate with your kids. They learn through the video how the parents and kids communicate. So they learn a lot about that, I think.
That's really interesting. I've purposefully tried to keep my kids a little bit away from social media too much and things like this. I mean, putting them on my things. Owen Young, her program, they phoned us 4 or 5 times to get our kids on there.
That's crazy.
No, but we said no, and then they kept phoning and they kept phoning. It's true, and we were just no, we're not putting our children on the television. That was just a personal decision, but everybody, I can see the beautiful effect it's had on you, Susan. So I will try that.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
Second one is Hot Pot from Heidi Lau.
Sissy.
I'm really obsessed with it, and it's once you try it, it's really hard to find an exit. And because of that, I'm gaining a lot of weight, and it's already very popular. And we have to wait hours to eat and try, but still a lot of people haven't tried it before. So yeah, I would like to recommend it. Yeah, and if anyone knows the exit, I hope they could tell me the way, because it's hard to get out of it. Yeah, I'm actually gonna eat after this.
Heidi Lau.
Yeah, with my sister. Yeah.
What kind of sauce do you make? Because I like in Heidi Lau you make your own sauce, right? That's great.
I just follow my instinct of the day. I don't have any recipes. Yeah. But it's mostly it tastes good, so I enjoy it.
Marina, recommendations?
I was thinking to come up with something. I'm reading right now The Crying in H Mart, but I'm not sure if I'm want to recommend it for now. But the last book that I read and I liked it, it was The Man Called Ovi by Frederick Beckman, I think. It's about, I think, Swedish man. He's like a grumpy European. Did you read it? No. He's like a grumpy man, but throughout the story we kind of figure out why he is grumpy like this, and he has his own principles and reasons behind his actions. And it's just a cute story about empathy that I feel like we should grow within us.
Give me the title one more time, please.
A Man Called Ovi? Ovi?
Oh, I tried that.
O-V-E.
Yeah.
OVE.
Yeah, I think.
Ove.
Yeah, Ove.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
think so. It's a nice one.
First I've heard of it. Good.
Is it a fiction?
Oh, it is. It is.
Oh, okay.
Ray, give us some suggestions, please.
Well, one is movie, and the other is food. And I'm gonna start with the movie. So, in my class, contemporary Korea, we watched 국제시장, Ode to My Father. I think it's a great movie, and I came up with this recommendation because I thought the viewers would be either interested in Korea or they would like to know more about Korea. But I didn't know that I could say literally anything like baby YouTube. It's like if I knew that I would have come up with something different. But like, yeah, if you want to know more about Korea, definitely go ahead and watch Ode to My Father. And the food is gatgimchi. I really like gatgimchi, and I think people sleep on gatgimchi. They only eat like 배추김치, but I think gatgimchi is really good. So yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
For me, the first thing is the album from Coldplay. It's called The Music of the Spheres. Recently, I went to their concert and it was legit. They're from the country of the band. I really like the way they talk about the power of love. So I think it's a great album. And next thing is a YouTube channel called 최재천's Amazon. So it's a YouTube channel from the biologist. His name is like 최재천. So he talk about a lot of Korean society. He relates it with the biological theories or his ideas. He also has a book. I think it's a great channel. I also watched the video talking about the low birth rate related with the biological system or something. So yeah, that's my recommendations.
Are his thumbnails often of him standing like in a big field or a mountain?
Oh yeah, right.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
That
Yeah.
keeps coming up in my algorithm saying, David, watch this, David, watch this. I'm like, no. But now I will, and I'll watch some babies, I'll eat some Heidi Lao, I'll rewatch 국제시장, and I'll stop sleeping on gatgimchi.
Great.
I like genip. Genip is my jam. Guys, just to close this out, thank you very much for doing this, because it's incredible how sensitive this could be, to come and talk about not only Korea society, but also about yourself, and to talk about problems. And most of you guys, you don't know each other before you've sat down here, and you've had to all of a sudden sort of do all of this TMI in front of each other with some weird guy asking you about, so tell me about feminism, do you want to have kids, and all the questions you're not meant to ask people. But you did it. I loved listening to you. I loved learning from you. And it genuinely has a positive impact on the way I see the world, because it helps me understand things better. And I hope it helps other people understand things better. So thank you, all of you. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, and we're done. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.